This video is about the proxy system in Janus. And the proxy system in Janus is tied to the smart replace system. The smart replace system is actually composed of two scripts, but actually it could just be one. The smart replace system is quite simple. What it does is simply when you hit smart replace, it will replace an object with a null. But before it does that, it stores the file name of the original object, so that when you hit the script again, it will look for that file name and then replace it. So it's like basically a toggle between a null and the original object. Now Janus uses this in order to facilitate a proxy system when breaking out passes. Now the first thing, the reason why there's a proxy system is basically when you have a heavy scene and you want to load it next time for breakout, you don't want to basically load the whole scene in. You may want to load in nulls or references to file names, but you don't want to load the whole thing, maybe because of speed issues, and you basically want to expedite the breakout of a pass without having to load the whole scene in and all the textures. So what happens here is, let's say we have a new scene, and what we're going to do is we're going to tag this scene with all its original file names. Basically, this is the first step in using the proxy system. We have to tag each object with their own with their file names. What I'm going to do here is go over to items and then go over here to say tag for proxy replacement all items in scene. Once I do that, I'll get this dialog saying tagging all items for proxy replacements. Before running this command, be sure you're not using any proxy objects in your scene. In other words, that everything that's loaded in your scene must be in their actual state. If there are already existing proxy objects, maybe because you've been using the smart replace system, make sure that they're all in their meshes, that nothing is replaced as a null, because this process will record all of the file names. So I'm going to hit OK, and it starts tagging, and you can see here tagged all items for proxy replacement. Now after that, it's quite simple. We can actually go over and select everything in the scene, and I could go over here and smart replace, and you can see it's working. I'm replacing everything with nulls, but at the same time their file names have already been stored. So this is a blank scene. If I save this, okay, so I've saved it, and if I load this back again, it will load in a fraction of the time, obviously because everything is nulled out. But within Janus, I could actually break out the scene. These things are still actually are there, so to speak. So if I go over to, let's say, the ground, I could still render it out. But before I can do that, I must bring Janus to understand that all of these are not nulls, that these are actually proxy objects. So I go over to object, I believe, and over here at the object category, there's a parameter called proxy object. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to click that, because I want it to be applied in all scenes, rather than all render passes, and make sure it's enabled. So if I render the ground, the final render looks like this. Now, as a demonstration of how it really works, as you can see, it's all been replaced accordingly during the time when the test render was being processed. But of course, this has been set up properly. You can see there's still no shadows here. But of course, it's just a matter of adjusting some of the passes to reflect that. So I'll show you how it's done. Over here, I'll associate hull 1, or rather the two tanks together, and do another test render. And this is the final render. As you can see, the tanks were replaced during render time, and of course all the proper visibility settings were placed in there. Now that's the proxy system, as simple as that. It's just switching on something. But of course, again, the major thing is that make sure that all the items have been tagged. and using the smart replace script. The smart replace script is actually included with the Janus package. So it's in the support files. So that's how it is, the proxy system in Janus.